Every zombies map ever ranked, except I have to explain my reasoning in one sentence or less. This list is Treyarch only, and I will not be including any remastered maps, but I will include the Black Ops 4 Ether maps, except for Classified, just because I feel like they are different enough to the original. The worst zombies map of all time is REISE. Hiding behind the myth of verticality, this map plays more like an elevator simulator than a zombies map. The older brother of REISE, TRANZIT introduces buildables and a vehicle transportation system, but does this in the most tedious way possible. Alpha Omega offers nothing new to the zombies franchise and is probably the most forgettable map in zombies history. NUKETOWN is one of the more unique survival maps that we've ever had, but at the end of the day, it's too bare bones to rank any higher on the list. As someone who loves complicated Easter egg quests, even I have to acknowledge that Blood of the Dead just takes it way too far. SHIMA NUMA is this far down on the list because it added the least amount of new features of any of the World of War maps. The map that started it all doesn't have enough to keep you entertained for more than a couple playthroughs. You can tell by the layout of the map that 5 is just reused assets from the Black Ops 1 campaign, however it is still a classic. Moon just has too many annoying features like the astronaut, box RNG, and waiting on excavators for me to rank it any higher. Also, not being able to hear while in your suit doesn't make for a fun experience. Voyage of Despair always gets lumped in with Blood of the Dead, but I don't think it's half as tedious, and the Titanic setting is just way too fun to put it any lower on the list. Ascension added 2 of the most iconic perks in zombies history, but the actual gameplay of the map is very repetitive. Firebase Z's layout is solid, but atmosphere-wise, it is just really drab and boring. Also, the boss fight is kind of a joke. The Machine is a solid introduction to the Cold War system, but the Nazi research facility thing has kind of already been played out by this point. The map that introduced perks, power, and traps to zombies was very atmosphere-focused, and is honestly the most frightening zombies experience that we've ever had. Even the worst Black Ops 3 map is still really good, and if you could just rework the plan system, I'd probably have to put it towards the top of the list. Town Survival was the saving grace of Black Ops 2 for its first 6 months after release, and it's one of the best bare-bones survival maps that we've ever had. Call of the Dead broke the formula of the early Black Ops 1 maps, and gave us some unique wonder weapons and one of the most unique zombie bosses of all time. Shangri-La was hated at launch, but actually has aged very well. Also, the Baby Maker is just way too fun of a wonder weapon. The conclusion of Black Ops 3 brought us Revelations, a map that merged together a lot of classic maps, wonder weapons, and zombie bosses, but did so in a way that feels fresh and new. Just looking around the map 9 is pretty jaw-dropping, but the wonder weapon is pretty underwhelming, and the gameplay is pretty mediocre compared to later Chaos maps. Forsaken brought us the crazy ending to Cold War Zombies, a fantastically OP wonder weapon, very fun and interesting side quests, but just how short the Easter egg is prevents me from putting it higher on the list. UNTOTEN expands on Call of the Dead in a much more inspired way than Blood of the Dead did to Mob. Also, it brought the Ether story of the previous 10 years to a dramatic ending. REISE was the peak of what World of War had to offer, introducing Pack-a-Punch, and is one of the most classic zombies maps of all time. Buried is probably the easiest zombies map of all time, but offered us no shortage of side Easter eggs and featured the most iconic Easter egg step of all time. Dead of the Night leaves the player with a feeling of being isolated in a giant mansion, left alone to fend off waves of zombies, vampires, and werewolves. KINO was a lot of players' first maps, and iconicism alone give it its spot at number 8. Mauer der Toten was the peak of what Cold War had to offer and was the first map in Cold War to feel atmospherically dense. EISENDRACHE expanded on the 4 elemental weapons of Origins, but scaled back a lot on difficulty, making it appeal to a more casual audience. Grod Krovi is just a flat-out badass zombies map with an extremely cool iteration of the raygun and one of, if not the best boss fight of all time. Ancient Evil is Treyarch's love letter to Greek mythology, with 4 unique wonder weapons, each with their ties to Greek gods, and some of the most unique Easter egg steps that we've ever seen. Mob of the Dead setting and layout alone is enough to make it one of the best maps of all time, but it's also filled to the brim with unique wonder weapons and a story so captivating it can even appeal to a non-zombies player. Origins is really the origin of modern zombies because it pushed a player through the map to find parts and solve complex puzzles in order to power yourself up in the game. Shadows of Evil is number 1 because it combines the immersive atmosphere and storytelling of Mob of the Dead with the highly quest-focused map Origins and offers the player a ton of unique weaponry in the process. It puts elements of Lovecraftian horror into the 1940s Morgue City and somehow does this seamlessly. Shadows is truly just a work of art, and I needed more than one sentence to fully articulate my reasoning. Thank you for watching.